Starting in 1955, there was such great delight for children and adults alike because of Captain Kangaroo.
There we are. We get everything dusted off and all set for everyone to come visit the treasure house. Won't be long now. The folks will be here. Yeah, we'll be ready to... Oh, say, what you doing here? Oh, it's a little early. Oh, yes, I'm sure you're early. Yes, let me look at my watch and I'll prove it to you. Let me take a look. Oh, yes. You're a whole hour early. Yes, don't go away. Oh, no, don't go away. You don't have to leave. Oh, no, that's quite all right. You stay around a little bit and, we'll have some fun here in a little while before the doors officially open and the folks come around. Let me introduce myself. My name is, Kangaroo. Captain Kangaroo.
And the man who never seems to change or age, Bob Keeshan, is with us this morning.
Oh, I do age. I do age.
You do age?
In those days, I required enormous makeup to look 60 years of age. And now I require very little.
No, that's interesting, though. You know, I never thought of it that way.
I'm growing into the part.
Are you? Well, also sitting to your left is a lady known well to Boston. She's the president of Action for Children's Television. Peggy Charon joins us just to talk about Captain Kangaroo and the whole nature of television. Good morning, Peg.
Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you here. What do you think, Bob, when you look at that kind of a clip taking you back that many years?
Well, it's very difficult for me to be objective. Of course, I lived it, and there have been a lot of programs, 8,000 or so, between that one and the programs that were on last weekend. So. A lot has happened. It's difficult for me to be objective, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, really.
What do you think, if you had to phrase it in one sentence or even one paragraph, that you've brought to kids through the Captain?
Well, I hope some confidence, some understanding that they're unique, some understanding that they have a future, and that they're loved.
What do you think about these days with television? Do you think that we lost something when we regularly stopped seeing the Captain?
Well, I think not only the Captain, but almost everything in children's television has of quality programming, except for that which we see in public television, and there in a very limited way because of the limited funding of public television. I think that we have really lost quality programming for children because today the marketplace determines what goes on television, and that with the sanction of the government of the United States. So then unless we have a very responsible commercial broadcaster, we're not going to see quality programming for young people today.
But commercial broadcasting is based on dollars, and we know that children's programming has no shelf life, as they say. Exactly. And that's why cartoons are so important to broadcasters.
Yeah, they're not even very important to broadcasters. The cartoons are, and there's nothing wrong with cartoons, nothing wrong with animation inherently. It's the way we use it. I mean, Walt Disney used animation beautifully, but the way we use it generally on Saturday morning is to exploit children, to sell product, and so it really is not the highest quality programming in general. There are a few exceptions to that.
Peggy, do you agree with that exploitation comment?
I do. I always feel when Bob Keeshan talks that I am extraneous. I don't even have to be there because we say the same thing. But
do you?
But there's one thing that that helps us all talk about it, and that is that really the behavior of broadcasters these days is illegal. There is a law, the Communications Act of 1934, which says that we license broadcasters because that broadcast spectrum is limited, like land, and we made a rule that in return for a license, which some people call a license to print money, the broadcaster has to serve the public interest. And what ACT and Captain Kangaroo and a lot of people have been saying for a few years now is that that has to include children, that public interest responsibility. Now, unfortunately, this administration is not into enforcing that kind of law, and that makes it very tough for groups like ACT to get
I
change.
disagree a little bit with Peggy there because I think that it's true that we have a great responsibility to serve to the future of the nation, to serve the young people, because television is probably the most influential medium, the greatest cultural influence on most children in the United States today. And what we're doing to children, I think, is disastrous. So I think anybody who looks at the future of the nation has to be concerned about what we're doing. But I disagree with Peggy because I don't think broadcasters have any responsibility today because they've been told they don't have any responsibility by the government of the United States.
Yeah.
We don't have to keep a log at a television station anymore. And no, Peggy, the real point is that television broadcasters are are simply doing what the government tells them they may do.
But we still have Congress.
They're playing, but
Bob, we still have Congress, and Congress is saying that that's not acceptable.
No, Congress is not saying that. Congress has not acted. There are a few wonderful people in Congress like Tim Wirth who are saying that, but Tim Wirth has very few signatories on his bill. He will have no chance of passing it in the Senate. So our Congress is not saying that, Peggy. The government of the United States has told broadcasters these are the rules. The marketplace determines what you put on the air. And they're just living by the rules.
People can change what the government say, and ACT has been committed to getting people involved
All right, committed,
in
but
changing
what
that.
has ACT done to change the picture of children's television? Concretely, what has ACT pushed through?
Okay, what ACT has helped happen is more funding for public broadcasting. Until this administration, you have to understand, Eileen, that with this administration, a lot of social services are disappearing. What ACT has done is halved the amount of advertising on television to children. It has gotten children's television to be a commitment for public broadcasting
All
again.
right, and only in the interest of time, Peggy, let me stop you and see if I understand your point. PBS, more funding. What about commercial television?
Commercial television has to understand from the legislators that they still run a public resource.
Well,
There's
it sounds like it's a political issue, Bob.
It is a political
Well,
issue.
it is definitely a political issue, and until people like Congressman Wirth and Senator Lautenberg convince enough of their colleagues that legislation is needed, until that time, legislation does not exist. As much as I might like to see it, and Peggy might like to see it, and others might like to see it, that is not the law of the land. It does not exist, and broadcasters are playing the rules of the game as they're now presently laid down by the government of the United States.
There's another problem, and the problem relates to economics. The fact is that for people with money, home video and computer connections to the set and that video recorder and cable connections to more alternatives make it possible for people with money to have a kind of diverse television viewing for children now. But the poor, the people who cannot afford all that equipment...
That's the masses.
That's right,
not
that's
everyone
most
owns
people.
a video. Well,
can't take advantage of all that technology, and that's what's too bad about the FCC saying now let them eat cable or let them watch public television.
Peggy makes a very good point about public television. That, I think, is the saddest state of affairs in our country today. While we are withdrawing money or withdrawing responsibility from commercial broadcasters, we at the same time are withdrawing money from public broadcasters. Captain would love to go to public television. We have been received by every element, every segment of the public television system. The only thing we're lacking is funding. If we can get a corporate underwriter to give us essentially $6,000 or $7,000 a day to bring on 200 and some odd public television stations, Captain Kangaroo to American children, we can do a lot of good.
Well, it doesn't sound like that should be so difficult
well,
at all.
you'd be surprised.
I guess I would.
Corporate America does not display that kind of responsibility.